Okay. It's so wonderful to be here with you all. Thank you so much for joining us and for being here. It's such a pleasure to celebrate Love Letter to My Brother Juan, a memoir in prose, poems, and found text by María Elena Scott, with readings from María Elena as well as Angie Trudell Vasquez and Freesia McKee. Amazing group of folks. It's really exciting. I'm Mike Went. I'm the program director at Woodland Pattern here in Milwaukee, where I am. I would like to begin by saying that we at Woodland Pattern acknowledge that in Milwaukee, we live and work on traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee homelands along the southwest shores of Michigami, part of North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnick rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present. We further acknowledge the grave evil colonialism introduced to these lands through genocide as well as slavery, but also via racist and xenophobic beliefs, laws, and practices that continue to inflict harm upon Black, Brown, and Indigenous lives. We honor those who have lived and do live now at these intersections of identity and experience and are committed to the active dismantling of white supremacy. So many thanks again to all three of the wonderful poets who are joining us, in particular María Elena for celebrating Love Letter to My Brother Juan with us. It's really a wonderful book, and I want to recommend it very highly. And I also want to share with you a link in the chat. So that is the first of a few I'll share. You can find that on the Woodland Pattern website, that book, our shop website, as well as stopping in. We are open 12 to 7, Tuesday through Sunday. So come see us in person if you're nearby. And then a couple more links also to the bookstore. And here we go. Okay, so we have books, of course, also by Freesia and by Angie Trudell Vasquez, including a very recent book by Angie, My People Redux, which is just out earlier this year, right? Okay. So yes, anyway, so visit us virtually or visit us in person. We do, in person is always great. So we'd love to see you if you're nearby. One quick announcement. I hope that you might consider joining us next week, Thursday, May 19th. We'll have a reading and conversation with several folks actually from Rescue Press, which was founded here in Milwaukee before moving on to various places. Pretty fantastic press. The event itself will feature brief readings from Daniel Kalachi, Carol Pagel, Sevi Perez, Zach Savich, Hillary Plum, and Alyssa Perry, followed by a conversation focused on various aspects of publication and the process thereof. So again, that's going to be in person and also live streamed on Crowdcast. And if anyone would prefer attending remotely or just can't get there or is not in Milwaukee. But we hope to see you, next Thursday, May 19th, if you're interested in that. A few, logistical things, just Zoom wise. I mean, you're probably all very familiar with how all this works at this point, but just to say it, feel free to, of course, use the chat to, send love to the poets, share favorite lines, etc., as we often do in these readings. And I will say, while we would love to see you, do feel free to keep your video on if you're so inclined. Please make sure your audio is muted. That would be helpful throughout. And then just to say, this event is being recorded, though only María Elena, Angie, Freesia, and I will be visible in the recording. So, but just to let you know that, full disclosure, we are recording. Okay, so there will each of the poets joining us this evening will give a reading. Freesia will read first, then Angie, and then María Elena, leading into a conversation between the three of them about Love Letter to My Brother Juan. So I'm just gonna introduce them quickly by way of their bios. The reading order will be Freesia, Angie, and then Maria. Freesia McKee writes poetry, creative prose, hybrid work, and literary criticism. Locally, Freesia's writing has appeared in About Place Journal, Burdock, Cream City Review, Eat Local, Read Local, and Where I Want to Live. In 6th grade, Freesia attended poetry camp at Woodland Pattern. And in 2021, she was a regular contributor to the Plowshares blog. She welcomes you to connect with her online at freesiamckee.com or through Twitter. So I'm going to share that too. You can. Angela Trudell Vasquez is a 2nd and 3rd generation Mexican-American writer, editor, publisher, and the current poet laureate of Madison, Wisconsin. She holds an MFA in poetry from the Institute of American Indian Arts. She is the author of 2 poetry collections, both from Finishing Line Press, In Light, Always Light, and My People Redux from earlier this year. In 2021, she attended the Macondo Writers Workshop started by Sandra Cisneros and became a fellow, also known as Macondista. In 2020, she published and co-edited a poetry anthology of Wisconsin poets through this door, through her small press Art Night Books. And another, share a little more, here's Angie, let's find Angie. And then María Elena Scott is a Mexican-American bilingual writer and poet. She's a graduate of the University of Wisconsin-Madison in education and was a bilingual educator for 25 years. Her writing has been published and anthologized in such publications as Come Be a Memoirist, Woodland Patterns, Creativity and Aging Anthology, Each Ear Hears a Different Meaning, Voices of Woodland Patterns, Wednesday Writers, Great Poems of Resistance and Fortitude, devoted to November 9th, 2016, Yellow Medicine Review, a journal of Indigenous literature, art, and thought, and the Riverwest Currents. And it is an incredible pleasure to welcome all 3 of you, and first to turn things over to Freesia McKee.
Thank you so much, Mike. I'm so just utterly thrilled to be here. Thank you to the 2 beautiful poets that I get to share this stage with. Thank you, of course, to Woodland Pattern, and especially to Mike. And thank you to each member of the audience for each of you, complete this circle. I was thinking about what it means to me to be reading with these 2 poets, both of whom I've known for a really long time. And one of the things that I've learned from them is some of the things that it might mean to walk through the world as a woman, some of the things that it might mean to walk through the world as an artist, and what it means to do those 2 things together alongside all of our other identities. So I'm going to read 3 poems today that are about how we make space in the world for ourselves. The first poem is called Thaw, and it takes place in rural Illinois, where I live now. And what you need to know is in the next town over, very small town, there is an ice cream shop called The Scoop. Thaw. Reading practices, a flea market, rural junkyard, seasonal ice cream shop. The ground wakes up, but the trees have not. Organize your life around your art, the scream of the wind against the car, trash in the woods visible from the road. Every poem risks the apparent stiffness of bare branches. I am afraid when I write. There will be nothing there. The leaves won't come back. We'll get lost in a small town. No one could tell me how being an artist requires trust in yourself, flying between fear and vulnerability to return to the thaw, how it will be muddy all around the scoop. The second poem is called Queer in Chandler Park, Macomb, Illinois. Because I can't hear the flutter of the leaves gathered above the gentlest breeze, and because I want to hear something other than traffic and squeals from livestock trucks reminding me this is not a real city. No dyke bars, queer potlucks, places my friends cruise. And though I'm not the one to assert dominion, or even my place in a lunch line typically, I lay on the ground of the town's first park, a long gone landed banker's block-long donation, and remove my shoes, so at least my soles can feel the rough, dead cork, the rhytodome's brittle, the sycamore's coat, and barking on my back like a late cicada. I suppose I should feel vulnerable, my neck crooked to the ground until I see the ants gather in organized fashion, a picket line in movement, the very pith of protest. Yet I am so tired of standing up that I relax, toe tapping, tags shattering bark, the pet name I've given this century tree, which makes a sticky sound like dull piano keys. And when I tip my chin to watch the leaves, I notice everything's in movement, even floorboards, thresholds, a clear cut, an empty park bench, even societies, my long-term partner's parents, that church down the road on Lafayette closed to us is on the move. The fact Chandler's land, where I lay, is stolen, the growing list of monumental war names, a stone's throw from anywhere in the park, all the ache of public space glows in the rush of maybe change. The wavering surrounds me. I keep telling my friends, this place is friendly, cozy, but sometimes I feel static, pummeled into a wrong-sized shoe, like when the technician I greet sometimes walking past his shop asks about my husband, nothing seems to move. I try to remember each being's rifts and wrinkles, how hardly anyone stick up straight, and I make my own assumptions about our new neighbors who rarely left this place. I get focused like an ant on a scent because all I can recall is the oldest version of myself lit on fire by vandals, worse than whispers, silences hid in bathroom stalls, at high school homecoming, a still life, a slow burn, wearing the wrong kind of dress, and how felling crashes only the standing. 1,000 walks we took before I met her family. The pink worms we tried to rescue from sidewalks during storms for just a little bit of mercy in our last hostile state. And everyone who asked if we were cousins, roommates, if I was her daughter, sister, we used to get mistaken all the time. It was easier to write off neighbors drowned out in the city, but here I'm keen to see the smallest movements edge into a hearable fall. She says, we're here to change things. But how will we know the time to cut our losses when we want a permanent season, a place to root? So this will be the last poem I read today, which is a new poem. It's about negotiating creative energy. It's called Acknowledgement. I express gratitude for the unending support of my partner and family. Support, like steel beams holding up a bridge, or a concrete slab, or better, loose soil that becomes secure in its commingling, solid forms of real dust. Support, away from people who didn't get why I was doing this. I left those places, aware of breaking off in a gust, or raw and desiccating, like a soft worm marooned on blacktop. I didn't know if there was one way to do this, to put my relationship with my creativity at the center of my life. I became a mother, a good one, a mother to my creativity. I noticed when to nurture and when to step away. After a decade of wandering with my arms thrown up, I felt satisfied, like my relationship with my creativity was as ringed as my relationship with my long-term partner. I left something for her, who told me what I couldn't tell myself. I was afraid. I was afraid of scaring her away. I was afraid to love like this with several hearts. Thank you.
Freesia, it's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you to Woodland Pattern. Used to live in Woodland Pattern. I felt like I was in Milwaukee for 10 years before I came to Madison, and it was there where I met Maria and Freesia, and here we are. And I will say, having a mentor goes back and forth, right? Sometimes younger people are mentors to you as well as older. I'm going to start with reading poems from My People Redux. And this is appropriate because today is really hot here. It's like 95. And this is called Kick the Can. Trains rattle across 4 Mile Creek, carry livestock to feed the hungry machine. Swimming in flooded cornfields, we crawl through DDT. Mulberries purple stain ooze through bare toes, starburst heels. Mosquitoes buzz in our ears, feed on limbs, bite under shorts. Ticks land on our heads, cause night body inspections. Corn arms scratch our leg as we run through farmers' young rows play, find the scarecrow, the hobo. We cut off kids' play, kick the can under earth shine, cry out in the soft blue dark. Sweet clover, dandelions, oak trunks know our names as we dangle from stripped limbs, dive off at 6 feet. I am 9, the ringleader, the I know girl. We tell ghost stories, hunt for clues, peer into pains. Little ones stand on shoulders to see, report back. We trample earth paths, search for caves, sunken farmhouses, old graves. Sometimes semis tip over and hooves clatter up our dead-end street, earth crashing roar, nostril thunder, snorts, steam. Cows and horses destined for meatpacking plants plot for freedom, pass under our window frames. Their last chance hangs. Mothers run out of their kitchens, scoop stunned toddlers from the middle of the stampede. Remark how often this happens. Animals breaking semi-steel doors. Weingartner Road, where underground railroads ran and good Iowans hid refugees in root cellars. In between fake walls, civil wars, until the next train crossed the land, the creek, lowest fields, straight line from China, spine of tundra. Trains still rattle, carry oil, soybeans, and children stub their toes bloody, all summer play, kick the can, barefoot on concrete. Moisture riding their back, sweat beads the second they leave the shower. Reporters crack AIDS on sidewalks, the whites steam. This is a 4-part poem, My People Redux. 1. Crossed rivers and high deserts before water jugs littered parched lands. Rode motorbikes, carried komals, seeds, black and white photographs. Fought poor villagers on their homelands, went from high school to the front lines. Lessons on patriotism led to flag burning, joints lit, alcoholic stupors, streaking. A roll of the dice, heads I live, tails I leave. My people forgot they rose from the earth. 2. Our great-grandpa knew. He planted corn rows, praying while he weeded and walked between his crooked lines, singing to the clouds to come, lay their rain music down, drum a new rhythm, tap the green stalks to grow. He wove a footpath from the back door to the smallest plant, whispering its name, and fed his family with what he wrought from earth and aqua sky, what he coaxed between loam and hard copper hands. 3. His kind fingers twist off pears, peppers, slender green beans, husks of sweet corn, crab apples and peaches, what the white-tailed deer did not nibble. Bees buzz in their hive, lured by the burnt man who croons at dawn, by his wife who brings them pan dulce and black cream in the morning in her pink house dress and potato sack apron. Leather patched by sun and scarecrow clothes, muscles cling to his bones, never young. Family, a heavy wool blanket, covers his sins in the heat. Blessed with grandchildren, they run in his rows, bring him home books he cannot read. Pages telling a history he corrects after cartoons each day. 4. Great-grandchildren search for his buried grave, armed with spades and hoes, so they know where they came from and can find their way back to the original place of green grace, mountain breath, stews cooked with seeds woven into a young girl's black braid, sewn in the hem of her deer dress. That was My People Redux. And I'm just going to read 2 more. And this is after Lorca. But I want everyone to know I am still alive after Lorca. I blow about the trees, inhale dandelion heads, visit when you would rather pick up a rope than a pen. I come to you when you droop on stone steps, swim in your water, your food, your soil. My body floats in rain clouds. You breathe me through your nostrils. I am apple's flower scent, arugula's bitter taste, a multi-sip of beer, the pungent God-giving aroma of morning coffee dripping. I swing on monkey bars, climb trees, sit on your shoulder, stroke hair behind your ears. And when you write late, kiss the air around your face. So I'm gonna read one more. I appreciate you all being here, the audience, my friends, reading with my poet friends. This is a new poem that's coming out of Yellow Medicine Review, How to Write Absence. How to Write Absence. A hollow cobalt vase, a bottle universe, dirges sung at your funeral, chiseled gravestone markers, one plate at supper, rugged wheelbarrows still, purple iris bloom short, violet carpets cry out for your footsteps in our backyard, silent moth wings drink at night from the bird bath, take turns with the bees, fireflies, crickets sing, ants plow tunnels underneath, worms creep, churn dirt in their wake. Tonight we forget our worries, spoons sleep sound, kick off blankets, tug sheets. Cold, we lack insulation from the deep freeze. The earth hums hello, goodbye, gracias, go to sleep. Agile light streams bend the glass. Gold orange dream halos circle the bamboo floor. You laid, new homeowner with fresh knees, broad back. We wax for years with bare toes, feet, padded slipper soles, pet dander. Filio dust fills the cracks. Now you stir, make coffee, feed the mew cats. I cry 5 minutes max, anticipate your absence. No smooth torso flesh smell at dawn. Write the scene where you come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Freesia. Thank you, everybody who's here that knows me. I see you, Lilian. Love letter to my brother Juan, a memoir in prose, poems, and found text. Part 1, Childhood in Mexico. Act 1, Remembering the Leaving. When my mother crossed the border for the first time that dusty, dry summer, we were not at her side. Please take good care of my children, she requested, bending down to kiss the 2 of us goodbye. We were 3 and 4 years old when this happened. My brother Juan and I were unceremoniously received by the black and whiteness of several amorphous shapes. I remember them being much more black than white. Our mother had placed us with the nuns at La Guarderia de Niños Orphanage in Matamoros, Tamaulipas, Mexico, alone and planning to return once she found a job on the other side of the bridge. She had entrusted us to the Augustine religious order and to each other. She must have known that keeping us together would help us endure her leaving us behind to look for work. When we heard the cold clang of the chain link gate close, I'm certain my brother and I must have clung to each other and cried, moving away from the just iron smell of blackness surrounding us. Mama, Mama. Crossing the bridge southward in my dream state, she would visit us often at the beginning, bringing with her a Cracker Jack surprise to her visits. Later on, it was my brother Juan who would tell me that she came to visit, that she left a treat for me. He said that they tried but couldn't find me in this block-sized large guarderia orphanage. Besides, she was always in apuros, in a hurry. I always believed him. I do not know the exact point in time when she stopped walking the span that linked her life with ours. It was unannounced, not like the first separation, not abrupt. The realization of this loss, the state of being orphaned, happened over months and years of time passing. Poem. Ode to a Mexican Morning Glory. I remember waking up at dawn in Matamoros, sleepwalker to a mural of stars against green wet vines behind the girls' dormitory. Dewdrop jewels glistened on a carpet of sleeping grass, my bare feet moist as I reached for a single, just right, creamy white morning glory. Communion before daybreak. A gentle caress, a soft pull, lips taste, savor, pliant flower food. I remember the imprint of pollen-formed freckles on my nose. Oh, how that golden dust made me feel tall, weightless, limber, loved for an hour or two, or until the magic powder had gently sifted to my toes, and all I could do was await the dawn. Poem, A Family Nonetheless. We were once without una mamá or un papá, bound by unknown circumstances. We lived at La Guarderia de Niños, an entire block-sized space, chain link fence on 3 sides. Gray cinder block framed the 4th wall. Leftover dollops of cement on the very top held spiky shards of broken bottle glass, jade green, amber brown, some see-through clear, all jutted straight up. Rhythms rang our daily chores. Weekly rituals danced color and pageantry. The Augustine sisters taught all there was to learn of religion and behaving. We were a non-traditional family, a family nonetheless. Mama Earth taught all there was to know and discover of seasons among the orchard. Los ciclos de limones, limas, guayabas, and morning glories for our senses. I was happiest when I knew my brother Juan was near. A family of 2, then a family of 3 with Jose Reyes, a family of more than us, a Pied Piper with younger children always tagging along. I'd carry one on my left hip while another held on to my right hand, a family of many unrelated by blood, bound by unknown circumstances, a community nonetheless. Act 16, Juan goes away, Maria stays behind. A few months after Jose's arrival, my brother was moved out of La Guarderia and taken to a different place, one just for boys called Mama Margaritas in Monterrey. He was probably 8 or 9 years old. When you are this age, boys and girls are separated. This was so the boys could learn some kind of trade. The girls, regardless of age, could stay put because we could help with the babies, cook, and clean. Because I was a girl child, and as soon as I was able, I learned basic domestic skills. I helped take care of the babies and walked with the toddlers. One of my favorite times with my brother as adults was when we would reminisce and he would say, "You were always surrounded by little kids, Maria, one on your hip and the rest just following you wherever you went, like a Pied Piper, Maria." Yes, I remember. Poem, The Only Photograph She Carried. I love this poem because I've read it at Woodland Pattern, and that's where this poem took shape. The only photograph she carried. Her shoes had frayed shoelaces, and polish was a coat discarded long ago. Skinny legs stand at attention. Midnight blue jumper hem covers dusty knees. Once white button-down blouse rumpled, haphazardly tucked in. Left arm bent, rest on slim waistline. 9-year-old orphan girl's broad shoulders stand back. Unruly black hair cut just below her pierced, unadorned earlobes. Dimpled chin juts out. Uneven bangs frame dark, knowing eyes. Pride and defiance, her adornments. Part 2, First Impressions, is another poem. Called Orphan Universal. In my heart of hearts, I still dream she comes back of her own volition. Months become years. It can be decades later too. When she finally finds me, a pink balloon surprise, she runs to me. "Mijita, I love you. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to be gone, to leave you, to be away from you for so long." I nod that I understand, smile, climb onto her wide open mama arms, drink in the Castile soap smell of her shower, inhale a faint aroma of toasted corn masa. Then holding hands, we fly away on Quetzal blue eagle wings to the farthest high. We laugh and swoop this way and that, tickle each other, play hide and seek, hitch a ride on the nearest air current over pillows of fair weather clouds. Mira, look, el Parque Chapultepec. We are above the heart, el corazón de Mexico. Red, yellow, orange, and purple balloons, green grass parrots, música de mariachi, and food vendors abound. Egg yolk yellow ducks swim in an azul celeste blue lake, el lago de Chapultepec. Our mirrored symmetry means that for now and for always we belong to one another. For now and for always we belong to all the loves that have ever been. For now and forever we belong to all those who have ever felt abandoned and reunited, anchor heavy, wisp light, light, a gift of orphanhood. Act 4, a protest and a reunion. A snapshot shows a young girl sitting at the far end of a 3-cushion paisley pattern couch. She's sitting very still. She's almost limp. All life seems to have sifted down to her toes. Sitting with her head down, her jet black bangs cover her eyes, but there is thinking going on. She gazes at her cinnamon brown hands which rest on her lap. She is so calm, so still, not moving, not saying anything. Everything about her is static, like Dürer's Melancholia 1 etching. Just as the room seems to be holding its breath in silence for far too long, a man directs his voice to a woman and says in an exasperated tone, "You're the mother, do something," as if mothers know all the answers. Her new adopted mom and dad don't know what to do. Hours and days pass without speaking. The young girl does not talk to anyone. She goes through the motions of life, not uttering a sound, clothed in her defiant silence. The creased black and white photograph is dated November 18th, 1967. The girl in the picture is me. I'm 11 years old. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, thousands of miles from what I know. My life has been turned upside down. I'm in a new culture and hear a new language. I feel so alone. And I have just found out that my brother will not be coming to be with me as I had expected. I had been adopted 5 months earlier. One of the adults helping with the adoption had given me the following promise. If you go to Wisconsin and agree to be adopted now, in 6 months, your brother Juan will be adopted too. Won't that be nice? When I was first adopted, my new parents did not speak a word of Spanish, and I did not speak a word of English. Interpreters are apt to miss the subtle nuances of meanings across cultures. In this case, major words were definitely lost in the process. I remember my parents being shocked when I asked for my brother. They were totally unaware of the promise made just a few months before. They had not agreed to any such thing. Long days passed and my silent protest could not continue. The solution seemed clear. Mr. and Mrs. Tormey, my new German and Irish Catholic parents, looked deep into their heart. They found enough love inside to embrace one more Mexican child. My silent protest was broken, and I began to sense happiness again. I'm going to read from part 4, Back to Kendall Avenue, Act 1. Mr. Tormey gets sick. Soon after we were settling into a routine, Mr. Tormey got sick. I don't know with what or what it was called. All I know is that he couldn't go to work. He was a nervous person. Mom was a woman beyond the expectations of womanhood of that era. She started that all too familiar now working outside the home. And of course, running the household with these now 3 Mexican kids. Mr. Tormey always had a drink after dinner. Oh boy, I remember if we didn't finish what was on our plate, we would sit there until we cleaned our plate or no dessert. Soon, Mom was going out of town for training. If over the weekend or more than 2 days, Grandma Hebo would go with her. It was during these times that Mr. Tormey sent the boys, John and Jay, Juan and Jose, to bed early. A horrible, confusing thing happened in my room. I started feeling like I was drowning every time. I couldn't breathe. I don't remember exactly how long this childhood sexual abuse lasted, but I do remember when it stopped. I was walking home from school on just a typical autumn day, not thinking about anything in particular, when a crisp breeze whirled around me. It made me know that Mr. Tormey had at that very instant taken his last breath. I was about 3 blocks away from home. I continued walking with a sense of relief and calm. His spirit self found me, hung around me for several seconds, and just as quickly disappeared. I got home and found him dead on the living room davenport. Poem, Forever Drowning. After weeks of soothing springtime warmth, in the midst of a cold snap, haunting images roll over me. Unprepared, my guard is down. All of my energy is sucked out the window. I'm unable to hold up the shield, the self-forged mirrored one that directs the ugliness back to you. Sickly old man, abuser, you win again. I walk about the rooms, a sleepwalker, numbed by the memories. Sickly old man, abuser, you win again. And the pain so great, the pain I scraped empty, forever unfilled. I can't blaze the protecting shield, the one that slings the crusted mud back to you, the shield that repels the stabbing shame from me to you. Sickly old man, abuser, you win this time. I find safety and rest on my side of the futon, warmth under the striped feather comforter, and my tears, so many, cleansing tears. Many days and nights I do stand strong of mind, body, and spirit. I do blaze the self-forged shield that protects me, and tomorrow I will again. Part 5, final words. Poem. Temporal, for beloved. I held on to hard-edged sorrow because she would not let go of me. Hard as I tried, you know. No matter what distractions and fancy dance steps I tried, I had to hold on to sorrow, hard edges and all, knowing that when ready, and not one bat of an eyelash before, she'd be full, loved, and move on. With warm, outstretched arms, I formed an oval above my crossed legs to soothe and rock, and to entice back and forth, side to side, and side to side. With an outstretched heart, I arranged a self-welcoming nest to rest her head on and to dream of before and soon to be joyful times. Back and forth, side to side and side to side. Then I planted the best kiss on her forehead. We lived there for a long time. Lullaby sounds filed away her sharp edges. Cooing kisses dispelled miles of grieving. Sorrow finally softened and melted away. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Maria Elena. And now, yeah, turn things over to the three of you for a conversation. I'm going to quickly pin everybody in the conversation so that you'll all be visible.
Thank you, Maria and Freesia. And Maria, I've had the pleasure of reading your book and having you on air. And this time I just got to really listen. And I just want to say how strong you are. And these poems just really touched me in a deep way, even though I've read them and seen them. And I wonder about the construction of like the prose with the poem and how they support one another and how you came up with that.
Well, it was over many years when I was being a bilingual teacher and a full-time parent, that I would get bits of information that just needed to be written down. And sometimes that came out as a poem, and sometimes as a piece of prose, but it dealt with the very same theme. I often played a game where I would go from a piece of poem and I would make it into a piece of prose, or I would take a piece of prose and say, how can I shorten this and make it into a poem? So I think that practice may have had something to do with what ended up being in the book. But it's been over decades. The first act is actually from back in 1990 when I first became a mother. I decided that I wanted to leave this story to my children, and I was lucky enough to take a class that supported that thinking, and that's the first act from that class is made it into the book. So
Thank you.
I think that the hybridity, having the poetry and the prose together, is such a meaningful roadmap for how to tell a story that has like many layers and many contours, and there's just so much there that like one mode can't accommodate it. I know that some of the people here have read this book. Some people haven't been able to read it yet. And so one thing that really fascinates me is the blue memo book that is present in the book. I'm wondering if you would talk about what is the blue memo book?
sure. Just a couple of springs ago, I was unpacking a box of old things from our days back in Phoenix, Arizona. And lo and behold, in the middle of writing this book, I found this blue memo book, royal blue memo book. And what that is the it's like a diary of my time that I spent in Mexico when my brother and I went back to search for our birth parents. So it happened to have come at just the right time because I developed that into a chapter for the book and invited the reader to come with me to Mexico, to Matamoros, and go through the difficulty in finding answers to who our birth parents were. And so the blue memo book really was a guide for me to translate that into chapters for the book. Well, thank you for asking.
I remember the blue memo. That's just a beautiful recollection that you brought up. But I wanted to ask you about community. I see there's friends here from Woodland Pattern and your writing group, and what role has community played in your process of becoming, the writer you are today? And yeah, just if you expand on that a little bit.
Sure. Let's see, it started, took a class from Woodland Pattern. This was titled Be a Memoirist. And it was a great, I think, 6-week class, I believe. And we published a book from that and decided amongst ourselves that we liked the energy from some of the people there. And so we invited everybody who wanted to continue to meet. And that brought about Wednesday Writers, which we still hold. I think this is now maybe our 10th year. I couldn't participate during the time that I was teaching full time, but whenever I had a break, like spring breaks, I would go to Wednesday Writers on a spring break or summer times. So that's how Wednesday Writers came about. This might be a good time to read the acknowledgements. That has to do with your question. I would like to thank the following people for making this memoir possible. Marita Golden is my mentor and writing coach. And she really helped shape this book and made me aware that the hybridity of it was indeed working. When I was doubting myself, I wasn't sure, because I was thinking, you know, editors are going to have a hard time figuring out, you know, well, is it a memoir or is it prose? Where should I put it on a shelf? And I kept getting that mixed up in my head, instead of just believing that hybridity had a place. And so she guided me through that. And then Freesia McKee, who is here with us tonight, some of her works from classes of hers that I've taken made it to the book. Her micro memoir classes in particular, I love taking, and you're a great teacher, Freesia, and thank you. And then I went to a writers conference here in Richmond a couple years ago, and there I met April Eberhard, who is a literary agent. She did a program about different paths to publishing. And she recommended that I speak with Terry Person, who I also thank because he did the layout of the book. And then Fiona Jade did the lovely cover, who was recommended by Terry. And then I would like to say a special thank you to the members of the Woodland Patterns Wednesday Writers and Sister Scribes Writing Group, to my family, Robert William Scott, Nicholas Alexander Scott, and Robert Daniel Scott, whose love, patience, and understanding have been heartfelt and invaluable. Thank you for leading into that acknowledgement page. I appreciate that.
One question that I want to ask is about how the book feels like an archive. It's so clear that it's been written over a long period of time, and it's really evident that you are, and the narrator / you are piecing together things and compiling this archive, cataloging this archive, making the archive an archive. And I'm wondering about, you know, the subtitle is a memoir in prose, poems, and found text. If you talk about the found text, what found texts are in there and why did you include them?
So the found texts are in here primarily as letters from my brother, and through the blue memoir, the blue book that we talked about earlier. So those are examples, I think, of found text. And I decided that the best way to get to know my brother was through his letters from the Navy, which are included here. And then also through what people said about his death, right? That those two pieces would do better than my explaining who he was to me, although I do that through some prose and poetry as well. So that's why I decided to include his letters from the Navy. Thank you.
I guess I would urge everyone to get a copy and take a look. It's beautifully constructed. And I love the found text and the memoir and the prose, the hybridity. And congratulations, Maria. It's just
Thank you so much.
really.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Angie. Thank you so much. How are we doing for time?
I think we're doing well. yeah, if there are more questions or more conversation, that's great. Otherwise, I know also that Maria, you're going to close with another poem too when the right moment comes. So,
Right. Okay. Thank you.
okay.
I'd like to show a picture, a photograph, if we have time. Let's see if
Absolutely.
I can find that now. This is that black and white photograph. Let's see. Can you see it?
Mhm.
One of my sister scribes mentioned that the stance that I'm taking is like, she said, fully loaded. And I really like that. I thought that was really funny and apt. And then there's another photograph. There's 3 photographs, page 132. Here's a photograph of my brother in his navy whites. And then one more of the 3 of us. Let's see, page 132. And I remember, Angie, how you commented how happy I look. Can you see it?
Yes, yes, and you still look very happy and so young and beautiful.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks. So, anything else?
You know, I have so much to say. I think all my comments have been saying the same thing, which is that I think this book is so brilliantly constructed. Of course, it's a really moving story, a really meaningful story, but the way that the pieces fit together and speak to each other is unique and powerful. So I'll just, that's not a question, it's just an appreciation.
Thank you. I appreciate that back.
I would urge people to pick up the book and take a look at the craft, the way that you put the poems together. I think form meets content very well in your collection. So, and I don't have it right here, or I would point to it, but it's worth studying.
Wow. That means a lot to me. Thank you. Yeah. The same question.
People want to know about the
We-
picture.
Maria,
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by the picture behind you.
Oh, the picture behind me.
Yes, could you say something about it?
Yes, it is by Native American artist R.C. Gorman. And it is a picture of a Native woman holding onto a piece of pottery. And I believe it's titled The Pottery Keeper. And I was lucky enough to have found it, to be able to afford it at a resale shop. And it's been, it's in our living room, and it's one of my favorite pieces. Thank you, Margaret.
Yes, well, it is beautiful, and I'm intrigued by the fact that it looks like the woman is looking away from the piece of
You're right.
pottery.
Yeah, she is. Mhm.
Hmm.
You're right. Is it time for my last poem, Mike?
I think so. That would be great. Yeah. If you could close us out with a poem. Yeah, please. And thanks to you all.
The bilingual person that I am. I am a Madison, Wisconsin transplant, where graceful swirls are the four jeweled lakes and the Fox River meandering along Highway 45, where my first snow was the past tense snowed, not the present progressive form of the verb snowing. Plop, I thought 8 inches came down at once, where street names are numbers and trees, Orchard, Elm, Ash, Regent, and University Avenue, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree, able to teach in English and Spanish, recognized on quality paper, fancy sealed paper, bilingual. Matamoros, Mexico, born and raised, the first decade of life, where graceful swirls are calla lilies, morning glories, spinning raindrop crystal tops, and Juan looking out for me, where street names are flowers, Rosas, Claveles, en Avenida Benito Juárez y Calle La Revolución, burned corn smells and pata cake echoes of making tortillas, música heard from the other side where the wall was made of gray cinder blocks and dollops of cement on top held jagged shards of broken glass like crowns. Conchas de chocolate and gingerbread pan dulce bakeries we called panaderias. Patriotic parades. Un soldado en cada hijo te dio. Every son a soldier anthem. Every daughter too. Las Adelitas in silk dresses at the dance. Hoist cinnamon brown veil a full 360 degrees. Embroider all the shades that melanin makes into curlicues. Weave all the loves that have ever been. Celebrate your coming out language, lenguaje, cultura. Reclaim all that is you. Mama Earth, mud cocoon, water lily emerging, multi-petal beauty. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. And all three of you, Freesia, Angie, and Maria, beautiful readings and such a wonderful conversation. I appreciate the three of you so much. And Maria, thanks for celebrating with us. I mean, I echoing what Freesia and Angie have already said, but it's a wonderful book and a really like just a rich experience of a book too. I mean, like there's so much happening. And I just want to share one more time this link, love letter to my brother Juan. So please do yourself a favor. If you don't have a copy of this book, get one and enjoy it. And thanks, yeah, so much to you all and everyone for joining us tonight. It was a real pleasure. Have a wonderful evening, all.
Yay! Bravo, bravo.
All right. Good night, everyone.